It's not a problem because nobody gives
I
you
want to
their
use it
challah.
just like he can't do the avoider. You know, to the end, because the room is at a different madrega. He should also be a prophet.
But you remove the habit.
Why? What's wrong with you?
How am I doing,
Being
Rabbi?
in contact with my Hayat.
Am I wrong, right? Where am I?
You're correct that it's an issue.
I didn't hear the whole thing.
It's a discussion. It's not, well, it's only tangentially pertinent.
Tangentially pertinent?
Yeah. So
Since there's no base in Mikdash, you don't have to worry about it.
that was my point.
Well, it shows you some, you gotta have a look at this is the Icarus and the Mashiach of what's happening over here.
But, okay, maybe.
So get
If
ready.
World War II wasn't,
Get
maybe
ready.
they don't put so much
Please,
on
please.
this.
That's it. What do you think Biden's president?
No politics, please.
Why I think Biden is president because Baruch Hashem, the Rebbeinu Shalom, got sick of the Trump.
Yeah.
If everything is called b'dei shemayim, that means the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted Biden over Trump.
That's right, because Mashiach is gonna happen.
Oh, is that, and Hitler wasn't good enough.
All right, come on, I don't want to hear that.
Well, it's true. I mean, why you're going to say that Biden is more an indicator that Mashiach is coming than Hitler? Then you're a Meshuggah, and I'm not right.
Okay,
You're
whatever you
punter
say.
from Tefillah.
Whatever you say.
Right there.
You're punter. Okay.
All right, gentlemen. Okay.
Biden is sucking.
Morning. Say goodbye to a lot of people. Oh, okay, you'll be here. You'll be here now.
Okay, I'm going to start our sponsors, and then we'll go into the Gemara. We'll talk about Thursday. Yeah. Erwin.
How are you, Sid? Good morning, Ruben.
Erwin.
Erwin.
Can you just get me a cup of hot water, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Want it hot? Okay.
Well,
Okay.
just a cup of water will help.
Well, they could give you cold water.
No,
You want
hot
hot
water.
Water I can give you.
Hot water is.
Marty here?
I'm right behind you.
Okay. We'll be right home.
Okay.
Okay, our learning sponsors, Sue and Arnie Garlic, and
Thursday.
in memory of Malcolm Perlman and Philip Mann, and Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, and Yerivka Pro Rosner bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, and in memory of family murdered in the Holocaust.
No.
Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, thank you. Yeah, that's okay.
Who's going to discuss?
Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratova bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata bat Asher. Friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Azna bat Yitzchak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Lezecha Nishmat Simcha Melech, ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha. Okay, today I'm going to stop. After today, the month of learning by the many friends of Lydia and Abe Krause in honor of their 50th anniversary. I think we did enough. Okay, month of learning by David and Mendel Cheslow in memory of his father, Moshe ben Ruvain Mordechai. Susan and Ruvain Podolsky in memory of her father, Simcha Bunam ben Yeshua. Haran and Mel Haller in memory of her father, Yosef Eliezer ben Tzvi Hersh. Susan and Ruvain Podolsky in memory of her mother, Chaya Bas Avram Dov. Bei Pizer in memory of her father, Yitzchak Dov ben Shmuel. We have a week of learning by Jack Gilman, sponsored in memory of his brother, Zev Yosef ben Yitzchak. Sharon and Michael Glass in memory of her mother, Chaya Bas Avram Baruch. Gail and Leslie Kaplan in memory of her mother, Mushka Sprinza bat Yosef Chaim Bechava. Judith Igerber in memory of her son, Anshel Yitzchak ben Aharon. Michael and Judith Paretsky in memory of his mother Rachel Bat Avram. And that is it, man. Shema's heaven, Leah, Crank, Raphael, Healthy, Yeshua, Shema's Leah, Lechol B'nai Yisrael, good Gebench, yeah. Okay. Okay, so gentlemen, we have to, anticipating the question as to what we should do on Thursday. Okay. I am going to be going a little further on in today's daf. Okay, whether we will get it all, I hope, whether that will be sufficient or not. Nevertheless, we need to discuss the topic as to what we might do.
Okay, so what's the problem? Because the
The
scheduling.
schedule is on Thursday is as follows. Davening is only 1 minyan at 7:45. After the 7:45 minyan, okay, Thursday morning, I'm not sure how long that davening is going to take. Okay,
Well, they're not gonna rush through Hallel like they do on Yom, on
that
Rosh Chodesh. They're gonna
you might
drag
be
it
right.
out.
Well, I don't know.
Well, how?
I don't know.
Can we
Okay,
do Hallel? Yom
What?
Ha'atzmaut?
What?
Absolutely.
What?
Can do Hallel.
no, but the question is
What
the
halacha
question.
case?
The question. Well, gentlemen, let's not get into a whole discussion right now. The question is,
No problem whatsoever.
okay, the question is, we don't know how long
Question
the
is whether-
davening is going to be, how long the davening is going to be Thursday morning, okay, as to whether that would, and then after the davening at what time it is, I don't have the flyer with me right now, but at
9:45.
9:45. 9:45 is a breakfast.
Oh, well, then it's 7:45, 8 o'clock. We would still have time, no matter
Okay.
how long they drag it out, even if he speaks for half an hour.
Okay, no, the rabbi doesn't speak on that occasion.
So then we could have daf at 8:30.
So I'm assuming that
We'll be done with it.
that
No, no, it's not.
well, let's say it runs an hour, okay, or even more than an hour, okay.
There's no Musaf. You say Musaf on Yom
No,
Ha'atzmaut?
no,
No.
no. So what happens is if it starts at 7:45, okay, basically
Very soon.
it's got to be done no later than 9 o'clock.
You said it's 9:45 is the breakfast.
9:45 is the breakfast.
It's gonna be 7:45,
So
you'll
we
finish
will
by
have all the time
8:45.
in the world. We can
So,
make the daf
8:45,
10
you'll
of
finish.
So that's what I'm saying. If that's the case, if we make the daf 8:45, 10 of 9, something like that, that should work.
Right.
All right, and still be able to.
If people are willing to hang around, because they're going to finish davening 7:45, 8:30. They're going to finish by 8:40.
Well,
I mean,
Okay.
on
Don't hang around.
What's the
for-
reason?
Rosh Chodesh, we were at 20 after.
right.
What's the reason for them only having 1 million?
Because
It's
it's,
because of,
because they are all
Hallel.
Hallel. Okay, so we'll go find out when.
Okay, so basically, the idea is that the same way on Rosh Chodesh, when we started 20 of, quarter of, around there, let's assume that that's when we'll start Thursday morning. Okay,
We'll be back by a quarter.
so whatever, all I'm simply saying is that gives us a good parameter. Those that are gonna daven elsewhere, they can still do so. Those who daven here can still do so, and we can still sit and learn. Okay,
I have no idea.
it's no cost.
You're not going.
No cost.
No cost for the breakfast.
And ask Marty to pick you up, because I'm not.
Okay,
I'm-
all right, so that's the
$15 or
case.
something.
No, it's no cost. Rabbi
You mean they're
Kranzler's
using
gonna
my
cover it.
dues money for this?
No,
Hey,
they're not using your dues
Don't
money,
smell it, what's that against?
okay? All right, so we've,
Nothing against it, except it's not a Jewish holiday.
all right. Gentlemen, let's not discuss politics, whether it's Israeli
I'm not
politics,
discussing politics, I'm discussing halacha.
okay? Either case. All right, I would like us to get started momentarily on the Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. Is that a good place to start?
Yep.
Okay,
Probably.
Okay, so we saw the question was about Zot HaMishmeret Lebeya Psula. That was the topic on the top of the Amud. Ha Nami Achla, she would eat. Mimai, on what basis? Dilma Adkan Lo Ka'amar Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. Maybe what were they talking about, says Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon there. Up to that point, how do you know that they were, what their view was? Hatam Ela Yesh Lo La'achil B'makom Acher. That maybe in another situation she would be able to eat. Okay.
Would be able
Okay.
to enable another woman.
Well, another somebody else to eat. Well, that woman too, if she had married a different Kohen,
Then,
right?
no, then she wouldn't be able to eat truma if she didn't marry a Kohen.
You know, but I'm saying, had she married a different Kohen also.
She was accustomed to a Kohen. Period.
Okay. Aval hacha, here in our case, with a pasul Kohen, that's the point. Now, in our case, with a pasul Kohen, de'emo laha'achil b'makom acher, okay, where there is no way that, right, that she could eat.
That he could enable
a woman who might marry him to eat? No. And that's where we stopped yesterday, right? Okay, so where's my, all right. Okay. So what happens? V'chitema, and if you want to say, hachanami yesh lo la'achil b'vat gerim, and what about the following example? Says the Gemara. Well, let's assume that a Kohen married the daughter of converts. Okay.
a maimed Kohen.
Okay, and this Kohen happens to be have a particular mum that we've shown already in a previous example. Okay, right? Vaha mebaye ba'ela Rabbi Yochanan mi Rabbi Hoshaya, and this I'm going to translate Vaha here is, and in this situation there was a question, an issue that was discussed and raised by Rabbi Yochanan before Rabbi Hoshaya. What happened? Velo Pashidle. And Rabbi Hoshaya, okay, Hoshaya did not come back with any kind of answer. Marvin, where are you going to sit? Okay.
Rabbi Green, you just reiterate what is the.
Okay, remember we have.
Of a Kohen with a.
We have this Kohen, remember? And a woman married this Kohen who had destroyed.
He's a crushed Kohen.
Okay, physical impairment.
Right.
Okay, and so therefore, it's not a valid. The question is that appropriate? That right?
It's usur for any man.
Okay.
Not just the Kohen.
Well, we'll get to that in a second.
To have sex with a woman if he's crushed.
We'll get to that momentarily.
So that's his problem.
Even if he has it.
Even if it's
He can have all the crush he wants. If he's crushed, he can't.
Okay, we didn't get there yet. Right now, we're only dealing with the Kohen. Okay. So if you're saying, okay, that he can't give truma to that woman because it's not, okay, because why? He really, that marriage should not have taken place.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to bring an example of perhaps another case where I have a Kohen, and then perhaps he's, again, this other case, marriage to a woman that is not appropriate. Do we say there too that he can't give that woman truma and use it as a parallel to our case? Or do we say, no, wait a second, maybe there's something unique in one case and it's different in another case, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's see what happens, right? All right, all right. All right, so what happens? So they bring this second example, all right, that Rabbi Yochanan is asking Rabbi Hoshaya, okay, about a situation where, again, the Kohen with a crushed organ marries a convert, a daughter of a convert, okay? And what happens there? So what's that situation? Rabbi Yochanan asks. Rabbi Yeshaya doesn't respond to him, doesn't give him an answer. Itmar. About this, the following was said, says the Gemara. Abaye Amar says Abaye Ho'il Umachila below Yad'ah. Okay, maybe it's a situation where he could still give her truma, okay, but without ever having relations with her. Okay, right. So that could be. In other words, let's take the example of that. Maybe his member got crushed after the marriage. Right? They were married. He was giving her truma. Exactly. That's why I'm bringing it. Right. So what happens? Maybe he was giving her truma. Then his member got crushed, and as a result, he could no longer continue to have sex with her.
Well, here they're talking.
Okay.
We
But
said earlier that a girl is waiting for Bia with someone she's not supposed
Yeah,
to
but
do it
let's-
with. Here she can't. They both know they're not going to do Bia, so maybe that.
well, that's
restriction
what I'm
is
saying.
removed.
That's why we're whole saying, can you compare that example? In other words, the one the question that Rabbi Yochanan is asking, okay, crushed Kohen, so to speak, with a daughter of a convert, can you compare it to our discussion that we raised earlier? Okay, and that situation. But
Because
notice,
he is allowed to marry.
right? So, but Rabbi Oshaya doesn't give an answer. Okay, so that's going to be an issue. All right, so Abai says, Ho'il umachila below yad'ah. So that was Abai's suggestion. Maybe he can still give her truma, okay, but not without any sexual relations. Rava Amar says, Rava Ho'il umachila ba'avadav v'shifchotav ha'kana'anim. Rava gives an alternative suggestion. Maybe since he has, the Kohen, the right to feed his servants, male and female, okay, the truma, okay, certainly one would think that certainly his wife should also benefit from being able to eat truma as well. Okay? So the Gemara now asks a very simple question, or tells us, Abai lo amar karava. Okay, Abai did not give the answer that Rava did. Okay, why might that have been the case? Kinyan de ishut, kinyan de ishut. That okay, yalfinan. Okay, that we're going to say that according to Abai, maybe he wants to use the example of marriage, okay, as a parallel to show that that's the way we deal, what we learned from it. V'lo yalfinan kinyan de ishut mi kinyan de avadim. And we don't learn from the example of acquisition of servants. We don't learn acquisition. We don't learn marriage issue from the acquisition of servants. Okay, and then the Gemara tells us, for Rava lo amar kebaye. And Rava didn't give the same answer as Abaye. Why? Right? Shani hatam shekfar achla. Because he could argue, well, okay, if I suggested that it was a possibility that they were married, okay, and then he had some accident that crushed his member, okay, she would have already started eating truma, and therefore once she started, she is already in a muhzak, she's already in a status that she should be able to continue, all right? So coming back to this, Abai wants to respond. Va'abaye, how does he handle that example? Shekfar achla lo amrinan. We don't say, according to Abai, that she already, since she started eating truma. Harvey's not here, huh? Okay. That, all right. Okay, what happened? Okay, since she already started, we don't, therefore she should be able to continue. We don't say that. De'ilo temahachi, because if you don't say that, but what about the following case? Bat Yisrael sheni seib lekohen umit Okay. What about a Jewish Israelite girl who married a Kohen and he dies? Tichol. Okay. She should be able still to eat. Shekvar achla. That's the implication that she, if she started eating, in that case too, she should be able to continue eating, right? Furthermore, says the Gemara.
Now this is Rabba.
Right. All right. Varava, and he comes back and he says, Hatam, there, okay, in that case, Paka Kinyana. All right. The right, that ended, we broke the Kinyan. Hacha here, lo Paka Kinyana. But here in our case, okay, there was no break.
See, Adaka, he's still alive.
Okay. In our case, he's alive, he's just not capable of functioning. All right. In that case. All right. So the Gemara wants to come back. Excuse me. Okay, good. Come back and raise the point. Gufa, let's come back and examine the situation. Okay, by Mine Rabbi Yochanan mi Rabbi Yoshai. We said that Rabbi Yochanan had asked this question, I raised this issue with Rabbi Yoshai. Patsua Daka Kohen. Okay, we have this Kohen with a crushed member, Shenasa Bat Gerim, and he married the daughter of converts. Ma'oshe Yachilena Betruma. Shall we say then that he must provide? Well, he's got to provide it for her, but that she's able to eat truma that's provided by him. Ishtik, he was silent. That was Rabbi Yoshia. Velo amale velo mide, and he didn't say anything. In other words, he barely even responded to the shaila. L'sof atagava rabba achrina. Okay, notice the language in the Gemara here. Ultimately, there came another great person, Uba mine milta achrita, and he asked another issue, Upashatle, and he answered him. Mano, who was it? Reish Lakish. It was Reish Lakish. So naturally, the Gemara wants to find out, why is he answering Reish Lakish's shaila, and why didn't he respond to Rabbi Yochanan's? Exactly. No, we're going to see. We're going to see the Gemara has to take time to try to deal with that concern. Okay? So what happens? Amali Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, the Rabbi Yoshai. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, okay, asks, okay, right? Okay, he was also the, right, Atu Rabbi Yochanan, Lav Gavra Rabbahu. Since Rabbi Yochanan, isn't he also a great scholar, a great person? Amarle, he said to him, Rabbi Yoshia's response, the kave minai milta delit la patre, that he established for me, I'm going to say it, a thing that has no solution. Okay.
Here's the question I couldn't answer.
He presented me with a situation, okay, that doesn't have a satisfactory answer. Okay, that's the point. Leman.
No, well, now,
Okay.
so what if it's a question that has no answer? What was the basis for asking it in the first place? That's the Gemara's question now. Leman, on who did he base asking such a question?
Okay, in other words, Rabbi Yochanan has raised a question. Okay, see, I understood it differently. I understood it simply that, okay, given the question, according to whose view could you possibly answer the question?
No, but could you ask the question?
You can always ask the question.
You can't just ask a question. You can't ask a gadol, is the sky green? You have to have a basis for the question.
So that's what Laman means.
No, I don't go by that.
Basis for the question.
No,
and
it's
it was
a-
a shaita of Rabbi
Laman is in order to.
Yeah.
Right, and that's why I understood it. According to whose view would you attempt to try to answer the question? Right? Okay.
I would say to ask the question.
No.
But okay.
Okay. Ila Rabbi Yehuda, if you're going to take the view of Rabbi Yehuda, right?
And you can ask.
Bein b'kedushatei kai, bein la b'kedushatei kai. Regardless of whether the Kohen's sanctity is still in place or still exists or it doesn't, right? Lo achla, she's not.
Either
Right?
way,
She
can't
doesn't
eat.
eat.
So it can't be them.
I b'kedushatei kai lo achla. And we see the development. So, if his
Saying what?
if his sanctity still exists, the Kohen,
He could lose his sanctity because of his,
That's a machlokes elsewhere.
that's the question. If his sanctity still exists, she doesn't eat. Why? The ha'amar bar, that not the master said, bat ger, right? Zecher kebat chalal, zecher, right? That's in the same status as the daughter of a chalal. Ilav b'kedusha tekai. And if he's not, if the Kohen doesn't remain in that status, his sanctified status, right? Lo achla, she doesn't eat. The ha'amrinan kahal gerim ikre kahal. Because can we really say that that the congregation of converts is considered part of the overall community congregation? Right? That's the case, right? So that's regarding, so it was problematic for Rabbi Yoshia to try to answer according to the view of Rabbi Yehuda. Now he's going to flip it and he's going to say, okay, you want me to try to answer Rabbi Yochanan's question based on somebody else's?
It can't be the answer because.
Okay. All right, we'll see. If Ila Rabbi Yossi, and if you're going to say the view of Rabbi Yossi, Bein Kedusha Tekai, Bein Lab Kedusha Tekai. Regardless if it's his sanctity remains or he doesn't have sanctity, right? Achla, she should be able to eat, right? B'kedusha tekai achla. If he retains his sanctity, she's able to eat.
Because he's allowed to marry.
Right? Daha amar af ger shenasa gioret bitok sheira lekuhuna. Because Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion, okay, that a convert who marries a female convert, their daughter, okay, is a valid Jewess, and as a result, she is eligible to marry even a Kohen. Ilav b'kedusha tekai achla. And even if he does not, even if he loses his sanctified status, according to Rabbi Yossi, she is still able to eat. Daha Amar, why? Because he holds the view, kahal gerim, lo ikre kahal. Okay, that the community of converts is not considered let's call it a separate community. Okay? Ella aliba dahai tana. But maybe, what about according to the view of the following Tana? The Tanan who taught Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, he says as follows: Isha bat gerim, okay, the woman who's the daughter of converts, lo tinaseh lekuhuna ad shetehe ima mi Yisrael. Okay, that she may not marry into the kahuna unless her mother, okay, was a true born, so to speak, Israelite. Right? Lahachi kimabayile, and this is how we ask the issue. Kashrut mitosefta ba va'achla, o dilma kedusha mitosefta ba v'lo achla. Okay, and that might be the way to ask the question. All right? Do we say that the validity, okay, it comes, right, is, so to speak, added on, all right, and she is able to eat.
And able to marry.
And therefore able to marry, therefore able to eat. Or dilma kedusha mitosefta ba v'lo achla. Okay, or do we say that's not the case?
He retains his kedusha.
He may retain his kedusha, but she can't.
Then.
Tashma, says the Gemara. Listen to the following bright. Ki atarav Rebbe Achabar Chinana Midaroma, when this particular Rabbi Achabar Chinana came from the south, Ata va'aite matnita b'yadei. he came and he brought another text, another Mishnah with him. Okay, right, Mishnah, right? Minayan lepatsua daka, Kohen. How do we know that in the case of a Kohen with this crushed organ, Shenasa bat gerim, who marries the daughter of converts, Shema achila betruma shene'emar, that he is able to feed her truma, as it says in a pasuk, v'kohen ki yikne nefesh kinyan kaspo v'gomer yochal bo. Okay, so it would seem to imply, based on the drush that he's darshaning this pasuk, okay, that so long as there is a valid kinyan there, okay, that is the situation. Okay, what? 830 million in the base midrash.
Which is
That way.
To the administration.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what happens? Ki yikneh nefesh kinyan kaspo v'gomer yochal bo leman ilem leRabbi Yehuda. If you're going to say that that's according to Rabbi Yehuda, ha'amar bein b'kedusha te kai bein lav b'kedusha te kai lo achla. If you're going to say, okay, that statement, what about the fact that, right, Rabbi Yehuda says, regardless of his Kohen status, she does not get to eat. Ve'ila Rabbi Yossi, and if you took Rabbi Yossi, lama likra, why do I even need a pasuk to darshan a pasuk to get an answer? Ha'omer ben kedusha teikai ben kulav kedusha teikai achla, who says regardless of his Kohen status, she does get to eat truma. Elelav, isn't it the following? The Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. It must be according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Ushma mina, and that's what we learn from this. So Gemara now comes back. Kashrut itosefta ba va'achla shma mina. Okay? And so therefore the validity of her status is such that then she is able to indeed to eat. Itmar. But about this, okay, let's go on. Rav Amar, says Rav as we go to the next Amon, Yesh chuppah l'psulot. It would seem to imply from this concept, this idea, that one is able to establish chuppah for those who are normally psula for marriage to a Kohen. Now, the issue is here, how do you define chuppah? This is a significant issue, okay? We normally think of chuppah, for them real quickly, as something that is set up at the occasion of the nisuin, right? For the purpose of marriage. That may not have been, okay, that may not have been their particular minhag at the time.
Supplement his house.
Okay, so what happens? The chuppah symbolizes his bringing her into his house. Okay, that's the issue. So in other words, could he bring her into the house, but let's say in the status of Erusin and not in the status of Nisuin?
And does it,
Right in the house, we
and
couldn't
what
really
if
do
there's
anything.
chuppah without bia? Is it the same thing?
That's the next question.
Right.
That's what we're going to get to. Exactly. So the Gemara says, and goes on, Shmuel Amar ein chuppah l'psulot. But Shmuel disagrees and says there is no chuppah, I still use that term, for those who are psula to marry Kohen. A marshal, right?
It's basically the same shaila as chayve lavin taisvin.
Right.
That's
Okay.
it's just different wording for that same.
Amar Shmuel, says Shmuel, umodeli Abba, and notice by the way he calls Rav by his first actual name, okay, that the Rav actually acknowledges my view, but tinoket pechuta mi bat shalosh shanim b'yom echad, regarding the arrangement of bringing in a child bride, okay, 3 years and younger, right? Or 3 years and a day and younger, right? Or il ve'em la bia, since there is no bia with her, ein la chuppah. There is no chuppah there, okay? Amar Rava, and so Rava says, af ananami tanina. So we've also learned this, he says. Bat shalosh shanim v'yom echad mitkadeshet babia, that a child bride who is 3 years and 1 day can become engaged, okay, married in a sense, with bia. V'im ba'aleha yabam kan'ah, and if a yabam has relations with her, he has acquired her. V'chayavina leha mishum eshet ish, and if anybody else were to have relations with her, he would be over on the isur of eshet ish. Umitama et bo'ala. Okay, and if some reason if it would be possible for her to be nida for some reason, right?
And he had relations.
And he had relations with her, she could render him tameh, the man who had relations. The tameh mishkav tachton ke'elyon. Sorry. V'niseit lekohen ochelet b'truma. Okay, so what happens? Going on. Ba'aleha echad mikol hapsulim pasla. And if she were to have relations with somebody who's pasul, right, halal, for example, on the teen, okay, if she was not a kohen, right, she is pasul. Bat shalosh shanim biyom echad hu the mafselet b'bia, mafselet b'chuppah. And we say here that if she's 3 years and 1 day, right, and she is ineligible, she is invalid regarding bia, right? She is also invalid in regards to chuppah. So the Gemara then tells us, if she's younger than 3 years and a day, that there is no, that she does not become invalid with any kind of bia. Lo mifsala nami b'chuppah. She also doesn't become invalid with regards to chuppah. Shma mina. Indeed, that's what we learn from this. Now, Amar Rami Bar Chama, yesh chuppah lepsulot. Rami Bar Chama argues that there is chuppah for psulot, just like our daf, okay, our Amud started, right? Namely, Banu Lamachloket, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon. This brings us to the argument between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon. We're going to continue for about half the Amud on Nun Chet now.
If we can get through these things, we can actually deal with Thursday.
Well, sorry. Okay. Let's go. I got the water. Okay. We'll go about half the Amud, all right?
Okay.
And then we'll see what, as much as we can cover tomorrow, that might make it easier for Thursday. Right? The Rabbi Meir, according to Rabbi Meir, the Amar Kedushin Pasle, Chupanami Pasla. Okay, that in that situation, Rabbi Meir argues that it's not a valid Kedushin, therefore it's not a valid Chuppah. The Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, the Amrei, Kedushin lo Pasle. They argue that the Kedushin is not invalid. Chuppah nami lo pasla. Okay, and they say in that case the chuppah is not invalidated. Umimai, and based on who is that? Dilma adkan lo ka'amar Rabbi Meir. Maybe up to this point Rabbi Meir only gave his position Hatam, there in that case, Ela b'kedushin dekanele, but in a normal matter of kedushin, where he does acquire her, aval chuppah delo kanala, but with a chuppah where it does not acquire her, lo, that does not work. Or nami, or what else could we say here? All right, the following. Ad kan lo ka'amre Rabbi Eliezer v'Rabbi Shimon. Maybe up to this point, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shimon didn't hold their view. Hatam in there in that case, ela b'kedushin delo krive labia, where we have a situation that kedushin, okay, in this case, I'm going to, okay, translate kedushin as more like a formal engagement. Okay, all right, right. Delo krave labia, that it does not necessarily always lead immediately to forthcoming bia.
Bia is not allowed.
Right. Okay. Right. Aval chuppah, but chuppah, and if we said, remember, chuppah was actually like bringing her into his home. Okay. In that case, the krave labia, where that certainly is a lot closer and may very well lead to bia, right? Hachanami de pasla. Here too, maybe that also renders it invalid. Ela ikala mema. But here, if you want to say the following, the plugta dahani tanai, okay, that maybe this was a machloket of other tanai. The Tanya, as they taught, nis o zob v'zo, okay, kashrut upsulo, ksherot upsulo, one married one to another, valid and invalid, o shenichnasu lechuppah, or brought into the household, v'lo nivalu, notice the point here, and they did not have relations, right? Ochlot mishalo va'ochlot betruma. Now we're coming back to our original issue, right? She is able to eat and able to eat truma, right? Nichnesu, okay, implying they entered. Miklal denisu, he argues the Gemara. What does it mean when they entered the chuppah? All right, it entered the household that they were married. Miklal denisu. Nisu mamash, asks Gemara. Elalav, but rather not. Let's say the following. Kagon shenichnasu lechuppah v'lo nivalu. Maybe they did enter into the chuppah, okay, right? But they did not have relations. Ukatani, and we learn the following from our text: Ochlot mishalo v'ochlot betruma, that it said that she eats from his. In other words, he's mafarnes, like her, right? And she can also eat truma if he's a kohen. Rabbi Yishmael beno shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka Omer. What does he say? Kol shabiata ma'achilata. Any situation where there was bia, he therefore is able to feed her. Okay, chupata ma'achila. Then the act of bringing her, let's call chuppah, into his household for the sake of easy discussion. He also has the responsibility to feed her, and therefore would give her truma.
If the bia would be effective,
If it's valid,
let her eat
if it's
truma, so
valid.
then the chuppah is effective.
Right.
But if the bia is not effective,
And in a situation where the bia is not valid enough to be able to feed her,
right.
okay, as in the example of our crushed kohen, for example, ein chupata ma'achilata. The chuppah then does not provide her with the benefit to eat truma. Mimai, based on whom? Okay, Dilma Rabbi Yishmael beno shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, ke Rabbi Meir, severely. Maybe this tells us that Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka held to the same view as Rabbi Meir, namely the Amar, who says kedushin lo achla. When there is simply kedushin, like an engagement, she doesn't eat. Hi, kol she'ein biata ma'achilata, ein chupata ma'achilata. Here, where the where the bia does not
It's
not
effective.
valid enough to feed her,
Right.
then the chuppah is not valid enough to feed her. Kol she'ein biata ma'achilata, ein kaspa ma'achilata. And in a situation where the bia is not valid, then even financial acquisition, in other words, even giving kesef, ring, whatever, that would be normally the point of engagement, okay, is not valid. Mibayale. So they asked as follows as we finish up. Dilma aide de amar tanakama chupa amar ihu nami chupa. Okay, perhaps we're going to say here that since the Tanakama brought forward the suggestion of chuppah, amar ihu nam, that maybe the same thing applies with regards to chuppah as well. That's we're going to pick up tomorrow there with Amar Rabba. Okay.
Okay. Sid?
All right.
Sid here?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't like to hear too many crushed Ohio. They do guys, they enjoy the word crush.
Don't take it personally.